They had to put the helicopter sabers into this episode because if there was nothing to put it in check, its raw power would kill us all. It's like how the prequels have to have bad dialogue or else their raw power would just be too much and it would kill us all. Welcome back to Rebels Revisited. This is a big one, guys. Not only is it what many consider to be the best episode of the entire series, not only is it arguably some of the best Star Wars content ever put to screen, but it is the exact halfway mark of the series. We're halfway through Rebels Revisited. I kinda can't believe it. So, here we go. This is Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2 Revisited. Part 1 left us with Maul and Ezra joining up with Ahsoka and Kanan to fight the 3 Inquisitors hunting them. This is where the fun begins, you guys, because Maul has kept Ezra isolated from Kanan for the entire first part, and he spent all of that time manipulating him and getting him onto his side. But now, we're throwing actual positive mentors into the mix, and we'll see what kind of tension that creates. The opening of this episode is just so cool. I mean, we have this. And that's the sickest line! Like, it's so cool, I almost can't believe it exists. This episode gave us so much.
And the fight that goes down here, even though it's pretty short, is also pretty cool.
The shot where all their sabers are locked is so cool. Man, it's just so cool to have Maul back. Do you guys remember watching this for the first time? And he's just so... Maul. Like this.
What game are you playing?
The end game, Lady Tano. The end game.
And this.
2 Jedi in a part-timer?
Like, those are just such Maul things to say. They really brought him back. And now we start to see how Maul has shaken up the dynamic of our heroes. Ezra trusts Maul so much at this point, and he's trying so hard to convince Kanan that he is right to trust him. Of course, Kanan doesn't buy into it, but he gives in anyway, and now things get crazy. Kanan doesn't trust Maul, but he does just have to let Ezra do this, even if it's a mistake. And it sort of echoes Legacy, where Ezra was searching for his parents and Kanan didn't think it would turn out well, but stood behind him anyway. Like, sometimes mistakes just have to be made. And Maul is going out of his way to make this uncomfortable. He is laying so hard into this uneasy alliance and playing up the idea of camaraderie, and like no one's buying it and they all know it. It's almost like a way for him to assert dominance, and it's definitely a show of his arrogance. This is something that definitely reminds me of Clone Wars Season 7, like the heroes having to team up with Maul, and Maul acting like they're on the same side because they have a common enemy. Ahsoka must be like, oh, not this again. So then we get to this great moment between Kanan and Ezra.
Ezra, listen to me. He's using you.
Are you ever gonna trust me to think for myself? To follow my instincts?
I do trust you.
Maul sees what I could be. You don't.
He'll say anything to get what he wants.
It's so frustrating. Maul is so transparent. It's so obvious that he's using Ezra, but Ezra can't see that, and there's nothing that Kanan can say to change his mind. That little gap between them, it's enough of a gap for Kanan to lose his grip on Ezra, and that hurts. That's such a scary thing for a mentor, a father, to recognize. And it's like, and there's nothing Kanan can do because Maul already won him over. He already won Ezra over. I also think it's cool that, like, this might not even make sense, but I noticed that as the characters travel up the levels of the temple, there are all these like really clear points of change and tension, and all of that's happening until they get to the top. And then all the tension is at a peak, and like all the decisions they make like really come to a head, and it like explodes figuratively and literally once they get to the top. Like, this is a really important conversation between Kanan and Ezra, and it happens as they travel on the elevator up the temple. Does that make sense? I'm kind of grasping at straws with that one, I think, but I think it makes sense. And then we get to a point where Maul suggests splitting up, and Ezra is totally on board with this. Maul is trying to isolate Ezra once again to keep him under his thumb. Meanwhile, Ezra feels like he isn't being treated fairly or respectfully by Kanan, so he's actually on board for breaking away with him. Such a mess. So then there's this line.
He'll be fine.
Yeah? How do you know that?
Because you taught him.
I think that's interesting because it's true, but it's just not true for the immediate future. In the immediate future, Ezra is going to tap into the dark side and feel abandoned by Kanan. But in the further future, Ezra will actually be quite fine and quite firmly planted in the light because of what Kanan taught him. And then back to Maul and Ezra.
The dark side fights without mercy, without remorse. If you want to be victorious, you need to find the same strength inside you.
Kanan always said fighting is a last resort, not a first.
Ezra, you were given your gift for one reason. To use it. Can I count on you? That's it, young one. Use your anger. Use your pain. Let it fuel you. Fuel you! Finish her!
I can't!
The next time you hesitate like that, it may cost you your life. Or the lives of your friends.
Oh, Maul is being so awful. He's playing with Ezra's emotions in the worst way. He's talking about Ezra having a gift, and by saying, I can count on you, he's acting like this trust they've built goes both ways. And he's saying all of this in direct opposition to Ezra's, but Kanan said not to fight. So he's basically placing himself where Kanan should be. He's overriding Kanan's guidance with his own. And he's been doing all that for, like, the whole time, basically. But now he pulls guilt into the equation. This could cost your life or your friends. And he's acting angry with Ezra now, so Ezra feels like he's disappointed in him. Ugh, terrible. Maul is thorough, though. I'll give him that. Also, it was pretty brutal that Maul just killed that Inquisitor right in front of Ezra. Actually, the Inquisitors really get wasted in this one. The helicopter was his doom. And now that the Inquisitors are dead, you know what it's time for. Pour one out for my mans, Kanan Jarrus. But first there's this.
Where's Ezra?
You mean my apprentice?
God, he's so arrogant. But now he's trying to play mind games with Kanan too. First, he's going to try to psych him out, and then he's going to incapacitate him because, again, Maul is very thorough and he sucks. And now, bye-bye, pretty blue-green eyes. God, that hurts. Years later, and it still hurts. The imagery of the white and the red, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. I was so distraught back in the day when this aired, like, I will never forget it. I will say, as I've grown up and gained a better understanding of literary tropes and how stories are told and stuff like that, I've come to really appreciate this plot point. Honestly, I think I might even say that blinding Kanan was the best decision the show ever made. You could make an argument for it. They handled it in a very literary way, and I'm so excited to cover Steps in the Shadow because that's where I really want to get into the analysis of it. I think that's the best place to do it. But I think this plot point was so well written, and it served Kanan's character so much. Poor Kanan, though, he really never gets a break. From Order 66 to alcoholism to intense self-doubt to unpacking and dealing with the Order 66 trauma to this. Please get him a therapist. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. This needed to happen, though. Something had to happen to force him to rebuild from rock bottom. His issues are so deep-seated that he just kind of has to build from the ground up, or else he won't become the Jedi he's meant to be. I see a number of posts talking about Kanan being the ideal Jedi, and I agree with those posts, but he wouldn't have become that if this didn't happen. And then Maul, he's doing all this damage for revenge. Still. He's still doing all this for revenge. Shouldn't he know better by now? This is why he fails. In Star Wars, you fail when you go against the themes that are central to Star Wars. Star Wars is based on themes more so than logic, so maybe like something comes and foils Maul's plan, but that's not why he fails. He fails because he's always focused on revenge. His failure is already written in the stars. It's written in the stars from the second he decides that revenge is his motive. And yet he keeps doing it because he's arrogant and he genuinely thinks this time it'll work out for me. But the boulder is just going to roll back down the hill like it always does, and he will still push it up again. Sisyphus. And then I love when Kanan squares off with him. I love the focus on the setup of this fight where it like slows down and there's the shifting of their stances and everything. It gives you the idea of how Kanan's loss of sight actually heightens his attention to detail, and then he wastes Maul real fast. King. It actually reminds me of the Twin Sons duel quite a lot. That's some really interesting foreshadowing, actually, that Maul gets into another fight that's similar to this one, except he dies. That fight's his downfall. Or maybe it's not foreshadowing. Maybe it's more like an echo. Happens all the time in Star Wars, events echoing each other. And then, oh boy, enter Vader. His entrance is so good. So dramatic. I love the theatrics of it all. Rebels Vader rocks. We even get this line.
I don't fear you.
Then you will die braver than most.
Like, that's such a killer line. Imagine ever thinking that Rebels is trash. And now, oh god. Ahsoka and Vader. I'm not ready. You're not ready. No one's ready.
Perhaps I was wrong.
It wouldn't be the first time.
There it is. Their first exchange in like 15 years. And it's so them. Like, Ahsoka saying wouldn't be the first time is such a her thing to say. I can hear her saying that as a 15-year-old. I can hear that as a line of banter between her and Anakin in the Clone Wars. But this isn't banter. And this isn't them in the Clone Wars. This is terrible. This is sad. It's what I was saying in part 1 about the angst of echoes of the past being present in the future, except they're like phantom pains because everything is different and you just have to live with the fact that you can never go back to what you had. And it's also such a line because it shows that Vader is known by someone. Wouldn't be the first time. Meaning someone was by his side as he made mistakes in his past, and someone in the universe is close enough to him to be able to make a teasing remark at him, and that person is standing in front of him right now for the first time in more than 10 years. Next line.
It was foretold that you would be here. Our long-awaited meeting has come at last.
There's a crack in the fourth wall right now. I mean, come on, that was speaking directly to fans. Imagine being like a 10-year-old who got into Star Wars through Rebels, and like you don't even know what the Clone Wars is, and you're watching this. Would you even know what's going on? Meanwhile, all the teenagers and adults were watching this with tears in our eyes because this is the tragic culmination of an entire era of our lives. It's the sort of thing where like you want to see it happen so bad, but like it's so painful that like you actually kind of don't want to see it happen. Next line.
We need not be adversaries. The Emperor will show you mercy if you tell me where the remaining Jedi can be found.
Vader, your Anakin is showing. I mean, maybe he just wants information about the Jedi. Maybe he just wants someone as powerful as Ahsoka on his side, like for strategic reasons. But maybe, just maybe, there's this little sliver of Anakin Skywalker who is making a last-ditch effort to not hurt Ahsoka and to keep her safe and with him. Next line.
Perhaps this child will confess what you will not.
I was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
So now Ahsoka starts to distance things. Obviously, she ends up fighting Vader, and she gives that fight her all. And I think she could only do that if she separated Anakin and Vader at least a little bit. Once Vader starts talking about torturing a child, that kind of turns things around for her. And next line, which goes really hard. Like, really, you could rank this exchange against the rest of the whole Star Wars saga as far as lines that go really hard.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Then I will avenge his death.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
I am no Jedi.
Woohoo! I get an adrenaline rush from that line. Can you believe this even happened? Can you believe that we got to see Ahsoka and Vader confront each other? Insane. This is so insane. Rebels was worth it just for this. And then they fight. Can you even believe it? And it's such a good fight because it's so emotionally charged. Can you even believe it? Clone Wars fans, do you remember how you felt the first time you watched this? Personally, I was completely overwhelmed. Can you imagine what that would have been like for them, though? Cutting over to Ezra and Kanan real quick, this line takes me out every time.
Kanan, your eyes.
Let's worry about that later. We've got to get that holocron out of here.
Ezra can sense the damage. Will force empathy ever not take me out? I feel so bad for Ezra because I feel like this is where the guilt starts to set in. This is where he sees that trusting Maul has caused irrevocable damage to someone he loves deeply. And it's even worse because Kanan warned him. And Kanan sounds so tired and wounded, man. Like, ouch. Just hurts so bad. Also, Chopper holding his hand and like leading him in, like, ah. Okay. Let's finish up Vader and Ahsoka. Oh god.
Ahsoka. Ahsoka.
Anakin.
It's hearing Matt Lanter's voice mixed with James Earl Jones, and it's hearing those voices say Ahsoka, and it's seeing half of Anakin's face, and it's so distinctly Clone Wars Anakin. I also find it significant that Ahsoka was the one to tear down a part of his mask and reveal the man beneath it. Every time I watch this, I feel like my childhood is getting forcibly ripped away from me. And it's the way she says, Anakin. Ashley Eckstein, leave me alone. It's so sad and shocked and hopeless. Like, she's looking at this guy in front of her, and now she can't deny it's Anakin because he sounds the same, he looks the same, and he's heard that voice say her name 1,000,000 times, and she's looking at this man now, and it's just like, what happened to you? And it's so heartbreaking that he's standing right in front of her, and yet she's grieving the loss of him all the same. And we know that she can't save him. Not even a little. He's lost until Luke brings him back to the light, so Ahsoka can't save him at all. She's too close to him, too entrenched in his past, and there's nothing we can do. And we know this. There's no hope. Oh my god. Next line.
I won't leave you. Not this time.
Then you will die.
I won't leave you, not this time. It takes me out every time. Like it's too late. Like, it's already too late. Like, Ahsoka can't do it. She can't save him. Like, oh, I don't know. I don't know, man. And it's the way that they just stand there, and there's this wind blowing, and they just stare at each other. And a variant of Ahsoka's theme plays solemnly behind the scene, and they just stare at each other. And it's hearing Matt Lanter's voice saying, "Then you will die." And James Earl Jones is not layered in when he says that. It's just Matt. Like, it's just... like James Earl Jones is not layered in on saying that. Like, it's just Matt. It's just Anakin saying that. That is Anakin Skywalker's voice saying that he will kill Ahsoka. Oh my god, wait, I'm literally gonna cry. Too much. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. And that's it for them. They continue the fight, and the super weapon goes off, and that's it for them. Let's take a second to breathe. Oh my god. And then we get into the end of the episode, which is so overwhelming. First, we have Ezra literally crying into Kanan's shoulder. You already know that this kills me. Characters holding other characters while they cry is a huge weakness of mine. You already know this about me. But this isn't like a Legacy, because they're both broken now. They're both broken. And Kanan tells Ezra, "There's nothing we can do. It's over." And the phrase, "it's over" in a hurt comfort situation like this it's on the list of specific things that take me out. I can't take this. It's the way that Kanan is still supporting Ezra despite everything. Like, it's how rock bottom this is. It's just... And the music. Oh man, the music. I feel like a lot of you know this track well, but if you don't, it's called "It's Over Now," and it's one of the best scores in the entire show, and like, Kevin Kiner? What? So if you haven't heard it, It's Over Now, Kevin Kiner. Just go listen to it straight through and cry. They get back to Atalon, and it's sunset, and I think that sort of signifies that this is the end of a chapter. Like, nothing is the same after this, and we've seen the rest of the series, so we know that the series actually, like, genuinely never really feels like the same again. And Ezra, like, sees how sad everyone is, and it kills him. You can see it. It kills him. He feels like this is all his fault. Poor baby. Rex's face when he sees that Ahsoka doesn't come back with them. After everything he's been through with Ahsoka, she doesn't come back to him this time, and he only just got her back. Then we cut to Malachor. Vader is limping away, and Morai is watching. So there's our clue that Ahsoka lives, really. The daughter's watching over them, so she's like watching over Ahsoka. So there's our clue right there. Ahsoka lives. We knew it the whole time. But Morai is also always there to watch over life-changing events. I'd say that checks out. And then we see Ahsoka walk into the temple, and that's all for her until season 4. And then the last image is Ezra and the holocron. The season ends with red reflected in Ezra's eyes as he opens the Sith holocron. What a mess. What a mess. It's so cathartic. I really like the direction they went in with that last scene. The music makes it this grand and sweeping tragedy rather than a quiet and intimate one. Like, the music reflects how the characters feel, which is not the quiet, fragile sadness of something like Legacy, but it's like their lives are over. This is a place where it will be hard to stand up from, and the music tells you how huge this devastation is. There's just... it's so much. It's too much. It's too much. Wow. What an episode. Rebels at its best is Star Wars at its best, and it's not hard to see why. I did not do this episode justice. It's too much to put into words. It's just too much to cover. But it's over now. I did my best. And next time, we move on to a new season. Goodbye, season 2. It was real. I'll miss ya. So... I'm gonna go cry now. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.